Today we're going to be jumping into chapter 23. This section is entitled David's Last Words. I don't really understand that because I don't think he's going to die now, because Kings talks about David as well. David's still alive in First Kings. So I guess we'll find out.
Now these are the last words of David. Thus says David, the son of Jesse, thus says the man raised up on high, the anointed of the God of Jacob, and the sweet psalmist of Israel.
The Spirit of the Lord spoke by me.
This is another question I've had as we've been reading. Why is Psalms located where it's located? You know? Why? I don't know. Maybe they wanted to get the chronology of David's story down and then go into some more extra information and whatnot. Maybe they wanted to get down the main points, right? As we did in 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel. So maybe that's why. Let's keep going.
And his word was on my tongue. The God of Israel said, the Rock of Israel spoke to me. He who rules over men must be just, ruling in the fear of God. And he shall be like the light of the morning when the sun rises, a morning without clouds, like the tender grass springing out of the earth by clear shining after rain. Although my house is not so with God, yet he has made with me an everlasting covenant, ordered in all things and secure. For this is all my salvation and all my desire. Will he not make it increase? But
I just want to pause this real quick. He said, although my house is not so with God, yet he has made me an everlasting covenant, ordered in all things and secure. What does he mean by that? Let me check it out, what this Bible has got to say. 23:5. That doesn't look like they're talking about it. 23:5, an everlasting covenant. That's what they're talking about, the everlasting covenant. Well, let's just read that, I guess, and see if we can get any clues. The establishment of the everlasting covenant that God made with David is recorded in chapter 7, verse 12 to 16. Here and in Psalms 89 are David's celebrations of the covenant in song. He will not make it increase. This rhetorical question expresses David's faith that God would carry out his promise. The covenant was based on God's sovereign, unchangeable will. Let me go back and look at that again. Let's take it from verse 4. And he shall be like the light of the morning when the sun rises, a morning without clouds, like the tender grass springing out of the earth, by clear shining after rain. Although my house is not, right? So basically here, what is he talking about? The Lord of the Spirit spoke by me, and his word was on my tongue. And the God of Israel said, the Rock of Israel spoke to me. He who ruled over men must be just, ruling in the fear of God. And he shall be like the light, right? Talking about the ruler, right? He shall be like the light in the morning when the sun rises, a morning without clouds, like the tender grass springing out of the earth, by clear shining after rain. So describing something pleasant, right? Although my house is not so with God, yet he has made me an everlasting covenant. So it could be that he's saying, although my house is not so with God, but why not so with God? Like his house is not pleasant with God. Like he shall be like the light in the morning when the sun rises, a morning without clouds, like um, like the tender grass springing out of the earth, by clear shining after the rain. Ruling in fear of God, he who rules over men must be just. So good, pleasant, whatever. Is David saying that his house does not have that type of relationship with God? Has not been ruling, um, reflecting these qualities? Could be, because we have seen the things that his house has accomplished: murder, treason, lying, adultery, right? A lot of negative things going on, but also a lot of good things, right? David has been a good king compared with Saul, even though his house has brought some negative aspects, right? But he's learned from them and moved on. So, taking David's cue, let us move on.
Covenant, ordered in all things and secure. For this is
Okay, so see, David's house is not ordered in all things and secure.
all my salvation and all my desire. Will he not make it increase? But the sons of rebellion shall all be as thorns thrust away, because they cannot be taken with hands. But the man who touches them must be armed with iron and the shaft of a spear, and they shall be utterly burned with fire in their place.
But the sons of rebellion shall all be as thorns thrust away. So there'll be thorns, right? Thorns within the kingdom, right? Because they're rebels, and they'll be thrust away, gotten rid of, because they cannot be taken with hands. Okay, so you have to be harsh with them, push them away. You can't touch them, right? Once you touch them, you might become a rebel yourself, right? That rebellious nature, and it might cause more problems. That's the same idea. That's the same ideology God followed with. He wanted to wipe out all the traces of paganism and idolatry over in the surrounding lands, because he didn't want it to spread into the children of Israel, which is what happened, because they didn't get rid of all the traces of paganism and idolatry in the surrounding lands. But the man who touches them must be armed with iron and the shaft of a spear, right? Just get them out. End them. And they shall be utterly burned with fire in their place.
These are the names of the mighty men whom David had: Josheb-Bashebeth, the Tachmonite.
Okay, and this phrase, mighty men, right? I mean, now we're talking about different authors, but if you're going to what Moses wrote in Genesis, the mighty men of old, the men of renown, right? I don't think that those are the giants, right? I personally don't think, from the information that I've received, I don't think those are the giants. And this could corroborate that, because David's referring to mighty men as regular men. But again, it's all relative, right? So, I mean, I just thought I'd throw that out there. Let's keep going.
Men whom David had: Josheb-Bashebeth, the Tachmonite, chief among the captains.
Tachmonite.
He was called Adonai the Eznite, because he had killed 800 men at one time. And after him was Eleazar, the son of Doda, the Ahohite, one of the 3 mighty men with David when they defied the Philistines, who were gathered there for battle. And the men of Israel had retreated. He arose and attacked the Philistines until his hand was weary, and his hand stuck to the sword. The Lord brought about a great victory that day.
Dang, like how when you grip something so tightly and it's hard to like open your hand. That's probably what they're talking about. Like he was holding onto his sword so tight that he couldn't let go. And these guys fought hard.
To the sword, the Lord brought about a great victory that day, and the people
I bet.
returned after him only to plunder. And after him was Shammah, the son of Agi, the Hararite. The Philistines had gathered together into a troop where there was a piece of ground full of lentils. So the people fled from the Philistines. But he stationed himself in the middle of the field, defended it, and killed the Philistines.
Oh,
So
snap.
the Lord brought about a great victory. Then 3 of the 30 chief men went down at harvest time and came to David at the cave of Adullam. And the troop of Philistines encamped in the valley of Rephaim. David was then in the stronghold, and the garrison of the Philistines was then in Bethlehem. And David said with longing,
Oh, that someone would give me a drink of the water from the well of Bethlehem, which is by the gate.
So the 3 mighty men broke through the camp of the Philistines, drew water from the well of Bethlehem that was by the gate, and took it and brought it to David. Nevertheless, he would not drink it, but poured it out to the Lord.
Far be it from me, O Lord, that I should do this. Is this not the blood of the men who went in jeopardy of their lives?
Therefore he would not drink it.
But they just jeopardized their lives to get this water for you. They broke through the camp of the Philistines just to get that water.
These things were done by the 3 mighty men.
So I guess you could say, yeah, that is the blood of the men who went in jeopardy of their lives. So why wouldn't you drink it? Well, let's see what this Bible's got to say. 23:17. David calls the water blood because it was brought to him at the risk of life. Yeah. He poured it out to the Lord. The water had been provided at such great risk that David regarded it as too precious to drink, and offered it as a sacrifice. Ordinarily, wine was used for a drink offering. Here, water was more costly than the finest wine.
These things were done by the 3 mighty men. Now Abishai, the brother of Joab, the son of Zeruiah, was chief of another 3.
Zeruiah.
He lifted his spear against 300 men, killed them, and won a name among these 3. Was he not the most honored of 3? Therefore he became their captain. However, he did not attain to the first 3. Benaiah was the son of Jehoiada, the son of a valiant man.
What does that mean? He was a chief of another 3. He was his spear. Okay, he did not attain to the first 3. Now Abishai, the brother of Joab, the son of Zeruiah, was chief of another 3. So the previous 3 he did not attain? Is that what it's saying? He lifted his spear against 300 men, killed them, and won a name among these 3. Was he not the most honored of 3? Therefore he became their captain. However, he did not attain to the first 3. Yeah, I'm guessing he did not stay with these 3 mighty men. I don't know. And my Bible doesn't, nope. 23:18. Yeah. I mean, that's just a minor thing. Let's just keep on.
And from Kabzeel, who had done many deeds. He had killed 2 lion-like heroes of Moab. He also had gone down and killed a lion in the midst of a pit on a snowy day. And he killed an Egyptian, a spectacular man. The Egyptian had a spear in his hand, so he went down to him with a staff, wrested the spear out of the Egyptian's hand, and killed him with his own spear.
Okay.
These things Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, did. and won a name among 3 mighty men.
Yeah, these
He was
guys
more
are
honored
pretty
than the
good
30,
warriors, looks like.
But he did not attain to the first 3, and David appointed him over his guard.
He was more honored than the 30, but he did not attain to the first 3. What does that mean? But he did not attain to the first 3. New King James, but he did not attain to the first 3. But he attained not to the first 3, but he did not become one of the 3. Okay, the first 3 mighty men. So these guys were great men. They did all these cool things, but they did not get to that level of those top 3. He held a greater honor. He was held in greater honor than any of the 30, but he was not included among the 3. And David put him in charge of his bodyguard. Who are the 3? Those first 3. we saw those first 3, right? Those mighty men. I mean, these are all great guys, but those 3 that were initially mentioned.
Appointed him over his guard. Asahel, the brother of Joab, was one of the 30. Elhanan, the son of Doda of Bethlehem,
Doda.
Shammah, the Harodite, Elika, the Harodite, Helez, the Paltite, Ira, the son of Ikesh,
Are we
the
going down to
Tekoite,
30? And
Ebiezer, the Anathothite, Merbani, the Hushathite, Zalman, the Ahohite, Maharai, the Netaphathite, Heleb, the son of Baana, the Netaphathite,
all from different
Ittai,
locations.
the son of Ribai, from Gibeah, of the children of Benjamin, Benaiah, a Pirathonite, Hiddai, from the brooks of Gaash, Abi-Alman, the Arbathite, Asmaveth, the Bahumite, Eliab, the Shaalbanite, of the sons of Jashan, Jonathan, Shammah, the Hararite, Ahiam, the son of Sherah, the Hararite, Eliphalet, the son of Ahasbai, the son of the Maacathite, Eliam, the son of Ahithophel, the Gilonite, Hezrai, the Carmelite, Pearai, the Arbite, Igel, the son of Nathan of Zobah, Bani, the Gadite, Zelek, the Ammonite, Naharai, the Beerothite, armor-bearer of Joab, the son of Zeruiah, Ira, the Ithrite, Gareb, the Ithrite, and Uriah, the Hittite, 37 in all.
Oh, man. And we know what happened to Uriah. So Uriah was one of those 30 guys. Dang. Man. All right. So it seems like a small garrison, 30 guys who are elite. Or 30 or so, right? That was 37. Right? Just the elite, the best of the best. The top gun.
Again, the anger of the Lord was aroused against Israel.
What happened?
And he moved David against them to say,
Go, number Israel and Judah.
So the king said to Joab, the commander of the army who was with him,
Wait, what
Now
happened? What happened? 24. It's not saying anything. What the?
Go throughout
Just keep
all the
reading.
So the king said to Joab, the commander of the army who was with him,
Now go throughout all the tribes of Israel, from Dan to Beersheba, and count the people, that I may know the number of the people.
Now may the Lord your God add to the people 100 times more than there are, and may the eyes of my lord the king see it. But why does my lord the king desire this thing?
Nevertheless, the king's word prevailed against Joab and against the captains of the army. Therefore Joab and the captains of the army went out from the presence of the king to count the people of Israel.
But why is it, again, the anger of the Lord was aroused against Israel, and he moved David against them to say, go, number Israel and Judah. Why? God's mad at Israel. For what reason? I don't know. And he wants a census. I don't know. I don't get that. Let's look it up. Wait, why was God so angry at David for taking the census? Again, the anger of the Lord was aroused against Israel, and he moved David against them to say, go, number Israel and Judah. God is telling them to number. What is this article saying? Again, the anger of the Lord burned against Israel. He incited David against them, saying, go and take a census of Israel and Judah. The parallel account of the incident surrounding the census, however, reveals it was Satan who incited David to take the census? What? Satan rose up against Israel and incited David to take a census of Israel in 1 Chronicles 21:1. Whoa! So how do you know which account to believe? This discrepancy is often explained by the understanding that in order to achieve his purposes, sometimes God sovereignly permits Satan to act. Like Judas, for instance. God can use Satan in various ways, with the result being the refining, disciplining, and purification of disobedient believers. Such might have been the case with David. God allowed Satan to tempt him, and David sinned, revealing his pride. Pride probably in the sense that, look at the size of my crowds, aka Donald Trump. Right? Look at the size of my province, the number of people that I'm ruling over. God allowed Satan to tempt him, and David sinned, revealing his pride. And God then dealt with David accordingly. We'll find out. There are other considerations concerning the passages relating to David's sinful census. Here is 2 Samuel 24:1 and 4 translations. Okay. And again, the anger of the Lord burned against Israel, and he incited David against them. Again, the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel, and he incited David against them. Again, the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel, and he moved David against them. Now, again, the anger of the Lord burned against Israel, and it incited David against them. Note that the New American Standard Bible, I believe this is the most literal translation that we have, right? English translation. Says, the anger of the Lord, is what caused David to take the census. The other translations say he, the Lord, did the inciting. The reason for the differences in translation is that the original language, in the original language, there is no subject for the verb incited. The fact is, we aren't told who exactly moved David to take the census. To translate the verse literally, we would say, there was who moved David against them, or for one moved David against them. The translations above have taken this to mean it was either God or his anger that caused David to take the census. But there are other options. The unstated thing that moved David to conduct the census could have been David's own evil imagination. Okay, but then if we're jumping into this territory, we can say that a lot of times in the Bible, when we see that God has said something, or we think that God has said something, we could just say, okay, that's just their own imagination. It could be the way the writer interpreted it. It could be who it was written about and documented down, their interpretation, or like someone's ever interpretation, imagination, whatever, you know? So this is hard. Like, if we're jumping into this territory here, how do we know what? You know? Let me know your thoughts about that, because then it gets into like, okay, what's what? What can be questioned? What can't be questioned? What is real? What is right? What is accurate? The one who moved David could be Satan, as 1 Chronicles 21:1 says. Okay, earlier it said that it is Satan, but now it's saying the one could be Satan. I mean, we'll figure that out, I guess, for sure on our own when we read 1 Chronicles. The adversary, meaning the word Satan, mentioned in 1 Chronicles, could be someone other than the devil. It could be an unnamed counselor to David who prompted him into a foolish or sinful action. As to why God was angry at David in those times, a man only has the right to count or number what belongs to him. Israel did not belong to David. But if God wanted David if God was angry and then told David to do the census, God's telling David to do the census of God's people. So I guess it depends on how you interpret what's being written. Israel did not belong to David. Israel belonged to God. In Exodus 30:12, God told Moses, "When you take a census of the Israelites to count them, each one must pay the Lord a ransom for his life at the time he is counted. Then no plague will come on them when you number them." It was up to God to command a census, and if David counted, he should only have done it at God's command, receiving a ransom to atone for the counting. This is why God was angry again with Israel, and is also why David was conscience-stricken after he counted Israel. David knew it was wrong and begged God to take away the guilt of his sin in 2 Samuel 24:10. All right, I'm going to stop here because we clearly need a little bit more context. So let's continue reading and we'll gather more information.
Out from the presence of the king. Therefore Joab and the captains of the army went out from the presence of the king to count the people of Israel. And they crossed over the Jordan and camped in Aroah, on the right side of the town, which is in the midst of the ravine of Gad, and toward Jazer. Then they came to Gilead, and to the land of Tahtim-Hadshai. They came to Dan-Jaan, and around Sidon. And they came to the stronghold of Tyre, and to all the cities of the Hivites and the Canaanites. Then they went out to South Judah as far as Beersheba. So when they had gone through all the land, they came to Jerusalem at the end of 9 months and 20 days. Then Joab gave the sum of the number of the people to the king. And there were in Israel 800,000 valiant men who drew the sword, and the men of Judah were 500,000 men.
Okay, who drew the sword? So again, remember, similar to the census that Moses had taken, they're counting only men who are military abled, right? Ready to fight. Right? There were 800,000 men who drew the sword, right? Who could fight.
And David's heart condemned him after he had numbered the people. So David said to the Lord,
I have sinned greatly in what I have done. But now I pray, O Lord, take away the iniquity of your servant, for I have done very foolishly.
Okay, so He did. Okay, so apparently, doing the census and all is a sin, and that could be why God was angry earlier. So, but it's the way it's phrased. It's like God was angry, therefore He said, "Take the census." But if this is a sin and David shouldn't have done this, and he's feeling sorry for taking the census, that doesn't make any sense. So, we could come to a reasonable conclusion that that's God was angry because David did this, and if God was angry that David did this, and David did this of his own will, right? Which he is not supposed to, which is apparently it's apparently a sin.
Now when David arose in the morning, the word of the Lord came to the prophet Gad, David's seer.
Go and tell David, thus says the Lord, I offer you 3 things. Choose one of them for yourself, that I may do it to you.
So Gad came to
Is God about to offer him a punishment? Here are 3 punishments. Choose one. That's kind of sadistic. I mean, that's either sadistic or it is thoughtful. Because you sinned, you're going to get a punishment. I really like you. You're a good guy. So I'll give you some options.
That I may do it to you.
Wait, what? My camera died? I see it on my end. All right, there we go. Boom. We're in action. All right, so let's get back. Let me back up a little bit and we'll continue on.
Gad, David's seer.
Pray, O Lord, take away the iniquity of your servant, for I have done very foolishly.
Now when David arose in the morning, the word of the Lord came to the prophet Gad, David's seer.
Go and tell David, thus says the Lord, I offer you 3 things. Choose one of them for yourself, that I may do it to you.
Well,
so
let's find out.
Gad came to David and told him,
Shall 7 years of famine come to you in your land? Or shall you flee 3 months before your enemies while they pursue you?
Oh, 7 years of famine or 3 months flee 3 months before your enemies, right? 7 years of famine. It depends on how much they had stockpiled and when the famine is going to take place, because they can take notes out of Joshua's book and prep for the 7 years of famine. 3 months before the enemies, you're ruining your reputation as king. You're ruining your reputation around the world and with your own people. Plus your people are going to die. Plus, you're going to have to run around and hide and stuff like that, try and survive. With the 7 years of famine, it's not an immediate threat, right? Because you're going to slowly die. But for 7 years, 3 months seems shorter, but it's immediate threat. What is it? There's supposed to be one more, right?
Or shall you flee 3 months before your enemies while they pursue you? Or shall there be 3 days plague in your land?
3 days plague. 3 days plague. The thing is, with a 3-day plague, in one of those 3 days, you get hit by the plague, you could die. The 3 days plague, the plague is not going to disappear after 3 days, right? You just have 3 days to be afflicted by it, I'm assuming, right? You get sick on one of those days, that probably could last a few weeks. Or is it that you were sick for 3 days and then after that you're healthy? I don't think so. I think that thing could spread and kill people in 3 days. But I feel like, dang it. I mean, it depends on how hard this plague is. How strong it is. Is it a coronavirus level where it's not going to kill anybody, or is it going to be hardcore? Dang, what do you think David's going to pick? 7 years of famine? 3 months before your enemies? Flee 3 months before your enemies, or 3 days of plague? Dang, I think he's going to go 3 days. I think he's going to go 3 days. What do you guys think? Put it down in the comment section.
Or shall there be 3 days' plague in your land? Now consider, and see what answer I should take back to him who sent me.
I am in great distress. Please let us fall into the hand of the Lord, for his mercies are great, but do not let me fall into the hand of man.
So the Lord sent a plague upon Israel from the morning till the appointed time.
I told you.
From Dan to Beersheba, 70,000 men of the people died.
Whoa.
When the angel stretched out his hand over Jerusalem to destroy it, the Lord relented from the destruction and said to the angel who was destroying the people,
It is enough. Now restrain your hand.
and the
Okay. We've jumped into this territory where we can start questioning things. So, it is enough. Now restrain your hand. Is God literally talking to an angel that is that is actually physically going around and destroying the people? Okay, maybe not physically going around, like chopping up with the axe, but an angel that is causing the plague, right? The angel of death. So are there two people in this situation? Two entities, God and the angel of death and God. And God said to the angel of death, all right, they chose the plague. You go around, set it off, kill these people for 3 days, and after that, and now the Lord is saying, all right, Mr. Angel, stop now. Or, right, is it actually him talking to another person, an angel, to stop? Or is the angel of death just an extension of God, just like God's hand? You know? And when the angel stretched out his hand over Jerusalem to destroy it, capital H, the Lord relented from the destruction and said to the angel who was destroying the people, it is enough. Now restrain your hand. Is this the people's interpretation of the events? Did they separate the two? Right? Or is it actually two different people? An angel and God doing this thing. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. That is interesting. I mean, I guess you could say it is still one, because the angel, even if they are two, because the angel is working according to God's will. So the angel is an extension of God. But I'm just looking at it literally. Is there actually an angel of death who's doing this? That God is actually saying, calm down, you did enough for now? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section.
It is enough. Now restrain your hand.
And if it is, who
and
is
the
this angel? Which
of the
angel
Lord
is
was
it?
by the threshing floor of Araunah, the Jebusite. Then David spoke to the Lord when he...
All right. So it seems like it is a tangible, actual angel. And the angel of the Lord was by the threshing floor of Araunah, the Jebusite. So this is where he was. This is where the angel was when God told him to stop. Or, again, maybe it's not an actual physical angel. It could be the plague was spreading across the land and it stopped at the threshing floor of Araunah, the Jebusite. Could be that too.
saw the angel who was striking the people.
Surely I have sinned, and I have done wickedly.
He saw the angel, or did he see the effects of the plague?
But these sheep, what have they done? Let your hand, I pray, be against me and against my father's house.
And Gad came that day to David and said to him,
Go up, erect an altar to the Lord on the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite.
So David, according to the word of Gad, went up as the Lord commanded. Now Araunah looked and saw the king and his servants coming toward him. So Araunah went out and bowed before the king with his face to the ground.
Why has my lord the king come to his servant?
To buy the threshing floor from you, to build an altar to the Lord. that the plague may be withdrawn from the people.
Let my
God already
lord
stopped
the
the
king
plague.
take and offer up whatever seems
To be withdrawn from the people, right? So God stopped the angel of death. This is enough. Don't do any more. But the people still have the plague. Who already had it still have it. So God is David is asking for healing for these people.
The people.
Let my lord the king take and offer up whatever seems good to him. Look, here are oxen for burnt sacrifice, and threshing implements, and the yokes of the oxen for wood. All these, O king, Araunah has given to the king. May the Lord your God accept you.
No. But I will surely buy it from you for a price. Nor will I offer burnt offerings to the Lord my God with that which costs me nothing.
So David bought the threshing floor and the oxen for 50 shekels of silver. And David built there an altar to the Lord, and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings. So the Lord heeded the prayers for the land, and the plague was withdrawn from Israel.
David's an honorable man. All right, that is it. We just finished 2 Samuel. Tomorrow we'll be jumping into 1 Kings. And we're flying by. So let me just 1 Kings seems to be a book regarding King David and King Solomon. So what am I saying? I don't even have to go that far. We're talking about David right now, right? And the first chapter we read today was the last words of David. So how does that work? Chapter 23 was David's last words. But David continued to speak in chapter 24. So what does that mean? Let's look that up real quick before we go. Let me keep this open so I can put this in the description. 2 Samuel 23. How were these days? I don't know what to search. David's last words. I said worlds. Now these are David's last words. Thus, how are these David's last words? If he spoke in chapter 24, unless they, for some reason, commentary. This chapter consists of 2 entirely distinct parts. The first 7 verses are the last words of David, his last formal and inspired utterance. The rest of let me make this big. That's what she said. That's inappropriate for this channel. Shh, I gotta cut that out. Dang it. This chapter consists of 2 entirely distinct parts. The first 7 verses are the last words of David, his last formal and inspired utterance. The rest of the chapter, 2 Samuel 23, 8-39, is an enumeration of the heroes of his life and reign. Okay, so that makes sense. If it's like a formal speech that he gave, because it is formatted differently also in the Bible, in quotes. So makes sense. All right, that's going to be it for today. We finished chapter 23 and 24. And tomorrow we're going to be jumping into the first book of Kings. So hope you guys look forward to that and hope you guys enjoyed today's reading. I thought it was interesting. So I'll see you guys tomorrow for the first chapter of Kings. All right? Take care. Goodbye.